Usually the easiest method to beating any activity is to just run Warlock with Well of Radiance. And well, the same applies to this dungeon. Solar Warlock makes surviving a piece of cake since you can proc Restoration ×2, and if worse comes to worse, you just panic pop Well. Today I'm going to go over how you can finally complete your solo flaws for Ghost of the Deep on Warlock. If you have any recommendations for videos you want to see in the future, let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you need any additional help or want better explanations, feel free to stop by my streams. My current schedule is daily, but I plan on switching it up, so expect a decline in days streamed. I stream around 1 to 2 p.m.-ish and stay live for at least 2 hours. Doesn't matter what game I'm playing, I just ask that you be patient and give me a little bit of time to finish what I'm doing. For the entire run, we'll be running Solar Warlock since it's the most brain-dead and overpowered option out there. Other subclasses like Arc are viable too, but I'm still going to recommend Solar since 1, Well of Radiance is extremely broken in any environment, and 2, Solar mixes very well with this season's artifact since it's paired around Solar mods. There's 2 different exotics I'm going to recommend, so let me explain those real quick. Sunbracers, in my opinion, is the best option for the first 2 encounters because of its insane ad clear and extra damage. Sunbracers is super easy to proc, only requiring a powered melee kill, and then you get to throw as many solar grenades as you can for about 5 to 6 seconds. The other exotic, Karnstein's, is good for all of the encounters, although I'd prefer mainly using it on the 3rd encounter. Karnstein's is so good because it helps you keep your Restoration ×2 buff up just by getting a finisher, and if you get a normal melee kill, you get Restoration ×1. There's some more options out there, and realistically, you can run whatever exotic you want as long as you're comfortable with it and are getting decent benefits from it, since Warlock is so overpowered. I'm going to explain each encounter real quick, then show you the little I personally ran to beat the dungeon. First encounter is only survivability and mechanics, so run whatever you're the most comfortable with. Remember that your Sparrow blowing up does a good amount of damage, and if you mix that in with the Moths or some extra burst damage, you'll end up insta-dying. Also, the Wizards do a ton of burst damage, and they can mess you up pretty bad. Just be careful and focus on staying alive. Second encounter is a close-range boss battle with ECTHAR. There's a couple different main DPS weapons we can run here, so let's talk about them. My 3 options are going to be Dragon's Breath, Lament, or Legend of Acreus. Dragon's Breath is available to anybody who has a Season Pass, and let's be real, if you're watching this, you probably have the Season, and even without the Catalyst, you'll still be dishing out great DPS. Dragon's Breath holds a pretty high ranking amongst all DPS options, and is extremely reliable, unless you're doing the damage phases like Aatrax from DSC. The only possible issue with Dragon's Breath is just blowing yourself up, but even then, you wouldn't ever blow yourself up immediately, you just have to worry about the quote-unquote lasting impression sort of effect. Lament is another solid option as long as you're running a Lucent Blade mod on your chestplate. Lament gives high DR and health on the revved up hits, which will help a lot with survivability, even though you have a Well. With a Lucent Blade mod, your DPS combo would be 2 charged light swings, 1 charged heavy swing, then 2 normal light attacks, and repeat. One big issue with Lament is that this entire arena is tilted on its side, which makes sword tracking a pain in the ass. This will end up leaving your character to do air attacks and miss out on a good bit of damage. While Lament is a good option, I still can't force myself to use it over anything else, and I just wanted to mention it since other people are still having success with it. Now, Legend of Acreus. Legend of Acreus is a great gun and does a lot of damage, but you need the Catalyst to do so. If you don't have the Catalyst, don't even think about running it. Legend of Acreus also requires you to fully commit to its damage rotation, or you aren't going to get good damage. You need to first proc Trench Barrel by getting a normal melee hit, then you can fire 3 buff shots before remeleeing. The cooldown between firing shots is enough for you to reload 1 shell, so you should be firing, reloading, etc. Basically left click, spam R, left click, spam R. Thankfully, since we're in our Well, and we don't have to worry about dying as much, this makes using Acreus way easier. Although when we run out of Well, you're going to need to find a new way to stay alive. Now out of all these amazing recommendations, I'm going to recommend Dragon's Breath since its damage rotation is super easy and will average you a 4 phase. Make sure you're running Solar Surges and Revitalizing Blast, which weakens bosses or champions in landing a solar ability, and you should be golden. Now for the final encounter, SIMUMMAH. I swapped off Sunbracers to Karnstein's since landing solar grenades on the boss is basically impossible, depending on where you are in the room. And Karnstein's is super useful for staying alive. Sunbracers is super good for ad clear and killing light bearers, but during damage is almost useless. Then for damage, I decided to run Leviathan's Breath. You could also run Linears or Tracking Rocket here with Arbalest, but Leviathan's Breath is super good and doesn't require any gun swapping. Unlike Hunter, I ended up hitting a solid 5 phase if landing almost every arrow, but doing a 4 phase is doable if you're almost perfect. Just remember that your Well will run out and you need to stay alive, which is why we're running Karnstein's. Just make sure that before you enter damage phase, you have full armor charges to get the most out of DPS. Now that I'm done explaining what we're going to do, I'm going to show you my loadouts and go straight into phase examples. Alright, so starting off with our ECTHAR loadout, we are going to be running Well of Radiance. I'm running Phoenix Dive, Burst Glide, Incinerator Snap, and Solar Grenade. You need Solar Grenades for Sunbracers. And the Phoenix Dive will help you get Restoration ×2. Burst Glide, you can use whatever glide you want. And then Incinerator Snap, I think is just better than Celestial Fire. For aspects, we're running Heat Rises. This is what we're going to be using to also get Restoration ×2. A bunch of our grenades are melee back super fast. And then we're going to be running Touch of Flame, which will make our solar grenades just straight up better. Longer duration and the blobs of lava around it helps with the damage. Icarus Dash, I end up using for the final boss, just because I don't need heat rises, but I'll explain that later. For fragments, we're running Ember from Empyrean. Any sort of ability or solar weapon kills will increase our Restoration and Radiant timer. Very, very useful. Our solar grenade finals are Kiryu, Ember of Resolve. Ember of Ashes, you will apply more Scorch stacks targets. And then Ember of Singeing, your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Ember of Resolve can be swapped in and out. Same thing with Ember of Singeing. I wouldn't recommend swapping out Ember of Singeing though. Swap out Ember of Resolve first, and maybe you can put on the one that gives you increased... yeah, right here. Ember Solace. Radiant and Restoration effects applied, you have an increased duration. This only increases the base duration, so it goes from 3 to 6 seconds instead of... or, sorry, not instead of, whatever the other one is. So, Ember Solace is pretty good too, just for ease of use, but I personally find that I don't need it. For ECTHAR guns, we're going to be running whatever fusion you want. I just have Scatter Signal. Cartesian Coordinate will be very good here. Same thing with the Aeromite. And then whatever add clear gun you want. Solar is useful because this will help us proc our Restoration and Radiant timers back up. But you also have your infinite spam of grenades and melee, so whatever. Dragon's Breath, you don't need the Catalyst. It's very useful though, so I highly recommend getting it. Real quick artifacts. Make sure you have Revitalizing Blast on and Solar Operative. Revitalizing Blast will help weaken the champions and bosses. Solar Operative is a straight 15% buff. And then Argent Ordnance. You will run out of surges on really long damage phases, but Dragon's Breath works with Argent Ordnance, even though I've been told it hasn't. I've done some testing, it does work. So on to the armor mods. For our helmet, I'm running 2 heavies and 1 harmonic. Harmonic is very, very highly recommended, or whatever your weapon, your primary weapon of use is, because this will help us make a ton of orbs. And between our heavy hand, or our grenade one, firepower, this cooldown is super long, so we're not going to be getting 3 armor charges back to back to back really fast. So those play hand in hand really well together. Bolstering Detonation will help us get our class ability back when you just cause damage with grenades, and this is a grenade build. Momentum Transfer will give our melee cooldown back off of grenade damage as well, and then Firepower, which is giving us orbs off of grenade kills. Chestplate. Make sure you have Arc on. I don't have, this was used for my Warlord's Ruin, so I have different mods on. Make sure you have Arc Resistance on, Wizards, SIMUMMAH, Knights, maybe the Ogres, I don't remember. They all do arc damage. And then you can swap out Void for Solar or whatever. It's up to you. You could also run Concussive Dampener, ECTHAR does AoE, and when you're really close to him, run melee damage, but if you're running a rocket, you're not going to. For legs, I'm running 2 Surges and 1 Scav. You can swap them in and out if you want. I just didn't want to do any more swapping, so it's up to you. And then for my bond, I'm going to highly, highly, highly recommend running 2 time dilations. I'm pretty sure this boosts it up to 18 seconds instead of 15. Just some extra time over 3 mods, you know, that's almost an entire extra armor charge itself. So very highly recommending running at least 2 of these. Maybe you can run special finisher as well, up to you. And then real quick for SIMUMMAH, the only thing that is switched around, Karnsteins. I switched to Healing Rift just because Phoenix Type is useful, but the big part of Phoenix Type was getting restoration times too. And Healing Rift is more useful here in my opinion. And then swapping to Icarus Dash, because we don't need heat rises anymore. You can still use it. I personally just like the extra mobility here over heat rises, because we're not using sun braces anymore. And then once your well runs out, you use Healing Rift to attempt to stay alive, or you can use Karnsteins to get a melee kill real quick. And then for weapons, Leviathan's Breath. I still ran Callous and Scatter Signal. Scatter Signal was used for killing light bearers. That's about it. Maybe if I had extra time to do damage, I would use that. But that was like never. Leviathan's Breath. And then I actually ran 3 Void Surges here. Just because on Warlock compared to Hunter, Hunter was doing more damage overall. But for Warlock, I wasn't doing nearly as much damage. Or not nearly. I wasn't doing as much damage. So I was barely netting a 4 phase with 2. So I'd recommend maybe running 3 here and swapping into a Scavenger mod if you want. Or taking extra time to get extra heavy. Up to you. Worst comes to worst, you just use it. You use a Scavenger or whatever, and you secure a 5 phase. Not a big deal. And then I recommend putting on the Sniper Resistance here. Definitely make sure you're stacking Arc at least, like having at least 1, maybe 2. But yeah, I think that's it. If I miss anything, I'll add it after this. But I think this is all good. And now I'm going to show you some phase examples. All right, so for first encounter, I'm going to skip it completely. Here's my tips. Run Karnsteins to play it safe. Run Stun Braces if you want to kill stuff. I'm running Well of Radiance. Make sure your Sparrow doesn't blow up and kill you. Make sure you're not dying to all the boss or the wizard burst damage. That's about it. Run it 4 times, super easy. For second encounter, I'm running Sunbracers again. I already went over this in my loadouts. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop Heat Rises, so boom, Heat Rises. And then I rallied there just because I got my grenade back. It's a cool, nice little trick if you have a grenade beforehand. So I'm going to Heat Rises, melee. That's going to start it. And then they're not dead yet. So once I pop my Phoenix Dive, I'll get my restoration time basically maxed out. So that's how I start that. You're going to want to use Sunbracers and grenade all these knights. I missed my Sunbracer timer by like a second, so not a big deal. Just went and killed some ads real quick. Gotta reproc up. I'm going to kill this ogre when he spawns in. He'll basically be instantly dead, so you can just start making your way over, kind of like what I'm doing here. You hear that noise, I mean ECTHAR is leaving. Do my reveal, make my callouts. That's 3 dot, circle, and impulse. So I'm going to drop down on this side always. It's just what I like to do the best. Gonna run over and hit these real quick. I don't have many tips down here except for sprint and jump, because jumping will make you go faster. I'm going to hit all 3 of these. You can also use ECTHAR if you're low on pressure resistance. Just let him hit you and he'll boost you just like that. So real quick, there's this little gap where my mouse is. You can actually jump through that very easily. And I think I know this back left corner right here, right where table is. That's what I call it, turret, whatever. No, not turret. You can actually jump over that wall too. So just nice little additional features. So we're gonna jump back up here, and now we have no restoration, no radiant, nothing. So I also have no grenade here, so I can't pop re-rises. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna melee, instantly pop my grenade, get some cure off of that. That's nice, get some health back. Throw a grenade and then Phoenix Dive. So now my restoration's up. I'm gonna take my time killing everything. And then once I kill everything, I'm gonna grab, what you wanna do is you wanna grab 2 of the wizards and then leave one of them alive. Grab the 2 wizards, get all your ammo and stuff up, and then your armor charges, of course. And then once you're ready, kill the 3rd one, get ready to dunk it, get your final armor charge again, because it's probably run out by then. And then as soon as you grab the armor charge, go dunk it, and then go for damage. I was whiffing right there, just ignore that. So here I grab all 3. And this is what that harmonic siphon, in my case solar siphon, is really good for. Is I'm just going to be killing a bunch of acolytes. And then I'm going to be making a bunch of orbs for myself. So like there's 2 orbs right there, I'm going to pick these up. 2 armor charges right there. I'm going to start dunking, another armor charge on my left. Here, I'm going to skip around just a little bit because this is pretty slow. So, right here. So I'm at 15 seconds right here on my Vestige of Light. If this goes away, you die. So I'm going to reproc my stuff real quick. I don't remember if this is one of my... Oh, okay, no, I do have my armor charges. So I have maxed out armor charges here. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm waiting for an Acolyte or a Thrall to be right next to my Imbue, because I want to proc some races immediately. So, boom, pop that right there. That's how my end that lag is on me. I'm going to throw a couple grenades at this guy. Throw a couple grenades at ECTHAR just so I can get the weekend ready. I pop well early here. You don't need to do it as soon as you can. I got a little lucky and ECTHAR immediately ran to the right and got stuck on the wall. Usually, if you don't break his shield, he will rush you. So be careful about sticking him with Dragon's Breath first. Try to break his shield first, then stick him with Dragon's Breath. So I'm pretty sure this whole damage rotation, or most of it, is without weaken. So you can definitely four-phase this guy. So here I go. I get lucky, get some acolytes on the side. I'm just going to throw some Sunbracers. Make sure you're looking at your radar. You don't necessarily need to aim down sights for anything in this game, unless there's a perk that grants something, but none of my weapons here grant anything. I'm just aiming down sights just to help with recoil, whatever. I don't know. This is what I do. So I've already made it past Savathun's A, the first A, which means I'm past a quarter. This is perfect damage, and I didn't even have weaken on for the first, like, third, we'll say. So right here, I have no healing whatsoever. So I'm going to run away and survive. I think that's about it. So tips I have, make sure you don't let ECTHAR push you immediately. He's going to, sorry. He's going to push you immediately. So make sure you don't stick him with Dragon's Breath. Throw a couple grenades at him. Fusion, fusion, fusion. Once he's broken, throw up your rockets. Also, make sure you don't have Overload Rocket on, because Overload Rocket will not allow the rocket to go through the barricade. Same thing with your fusion, primary, whatever. And remember that Radiant makes you anti-barrier. So, alright, and now we're on to SIMUMMAH. So for SIMUMMAH, remember that when you're using Leviathan's Breath, you don't need to rally with reserves if you have the Catalyst, because it gives you the extra reserves already, and you get Archer's Tempo. So, hey guys, one thing I forgot to add real quick, the things I'm swapping here are Phoenix Dive is going to Healing Rift. I'm taking off Heat Rises and putting on Icarus Dash, and then I'm swapping from Sunbracers to Karnsteins. Sorry I didn't put this in more professionally, but this is literally during render. Just canceled it to put this in. The reason why is because we don't need Heat Rises or Phoenix Dive anymore to make Restoration, because we're using Karnsteins now, and Healing Rift is really nice because when we run out of well, we can throw that down, and we can also throw that down around any of the little points around the map when we just want to sit still and have passive healing. So, sorry. That's it. I'll start off by killing the Ghost, because we have a Healing Rift. I'm just going to put a Healing Rift down here. You don't need to do this. You could just go kill an ad real quick, get Restoration. We're going to shoot all the moths real quick. Almost called them butterflies. And then check out the location. Grab Restoration ×2. When you use Karnsteins, you get an 8-second timer. And we're going to kill Warlock in each spot. It's really simple. I'm just going to show you one of these. So boom, there we go. And then we're going to skip along real quick until one of the actual important parts where you are killing the Hive Bearers. One more thing to note is the top of the head for Oryx is kind of strange. Volrog has a hard time getting up there. So just make sure you're killing all the knights on the outside of the room. There's 3 of them in total. Top, middle, left, and right. They don't respawn until the new damage phase starts. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to start... Every time I enter a Light Bearer, I'm getting Restoration ×2. Every time. And that's it. Just kill him. Really not that hard. Warlock is super easy. The Hunter can low-key melt you. And the Titan can low-key fuck you up too. So we're going to skip along. When I'm going to dunk, what you should always do is finish an enemy first, then hit the deep sight, then dunk. I'm going to show you a mistake I did in a minute. So I dunk here. I'm going to go hit to the Hunter. Once again, I enter the room. Get a finisher. Restoration ×2. I decided to get another one up here just because... Want to keep it a little safe. And then I melt the Hunter too. He starts to get a little aggro, so I back up a little bit. Played safe. Hit him with my melee. Ignition is killing him. Get the finisher and go. So here is a huge mistake. Do not do this. Thankfully I didn't die. I got very, very lucky. I had to pop well. I didn't grab Restoration ×2 before going for this. I was like, oh, I don't see any enemies on my radar. I see them now. I'm like, oh, fuck. Too late. I'm just going to go for it. I got lucky that she stopped her spray and Healing Rift just before. I also whiff here. Look at my health. Very low. Popped well. Just play it safe. That is super risky. The only reason I'm playing this risky is because I've already done this. I just don't feel like doing it again. But I don't have any footage, so. Here we go into Titan. The Titan is probably the scariest one just because his shield bashes can fuck you up really, really bad. But if he tries to bump you away, just melee him back and you won't move. And honestly, besides that, you can kill him very easily. If you get Unraveling Orbs, you can 3-4 burst him without him even getting into a super. So, I'm not going to show this, but I end up just farming him for my super. So if you ever run out of your super, you can just let him respawn over and over again, because super is based off of damage now, whatever. Or a lot of it's based off of damage. So I exit out, I just exited out. I'm getting my armor charges up first, so I'm getting rapid siphon kills with my solar weapon, getting my orbs. My restoration is pretty high too. Not that it matters because we have well. So right before I pick up my last armor charge, I'm going to pick up Deep Sight. Then I'm going to jump my way up here. Fall out Dragon's Breath. I'm going to well, and while I'm welling, you can hold your button to actually start this. Pop it, and then I'm going to start damage. So I'm going to show you this full damage phase. Breaking up the shield right now. I throw a grenade at my feet just so the thralls don't stagger me, because the melees are what flinch you a ton, and not necessarily the gunfire. Remember, once you break your shield, it's going to teleport. And the reason I'm hip firing here is because it's very accurate. Obviously ADS is more accurate, but it's super, super accurate for ADS. And the radar is very useful for when thralls are running up. So right there, I took time out of my DPS to kill those thralls, because if those thralls make me miss a shot, it's worth than just taking a little bit of extra time to kill the thralls instead, right? So here's my last arrow. And you can see I made it past the 4th. Just a little bit of past the 4th. So it's pretty tight. But you can definitely secure a 5 and definitely secure a 6 phase on this. Any other tips would be make sure you don't kill Volrog outside of the circle, obviously. And every time Volrog spawns in, The moths will spawn in as well, so watch out for those. Kill those instantly. Kill the 3 knights around the room. Grab restoration ×2 every time you exit the water. And make sure you don't die killing light bearers. Could be a 4 phase, should be a 5 to 6 phase. Anything longer than that, you just made a mistake or two, no big deal. Just keep it going. Play it safe. Karnsteins is the move here, not Sunbracers, in my opinion. Hopefully this guide helped you out, and if it did, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. I also finally hit 500 subscribers, which means I now have access to the members program. If any of the information has helped you enough to get to the point where you feel like giving back, then there you go. There's no real benefits besides having some cool badges and maybe getting access to early videos. Just remember that it's a subscription service, so make sure you cancel when you're done. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you around.